I'm Bob Churchill, Dean of the School of Medicine, and on behalf of the entire School of Medicine, it is my privilege and honor to welcome you, the students of the MU School of Medicine class of 2015, to our annual white coat ceremony. This is our 15th annual, by the way, so it's somewhat of a bit of an anniversary for us. It's great to see a huge turnout here. This is probably one of the largest turnouts I think I've seen for a white coat ceremony, and so it's a real credit to the students and their families and friends to come to this ceremony. Now, I'm going to give a little bit of an excuse here. I usually wing these things, but yesterday I was in India, and today I'm here. And so it's a 17-hour and 55-minute flight from New Delhi to O'Hare. So I'm still not quite oriented to person, time, and place. So I'm going to pretty much stick to the script. So I'm going to be reading a lot of this, but I trust me, I don't like doing that. I like to just look at everybody in the audience and talk. So the white coat ceremony, where did it start? There was a pediatrician and neurologist named Arnold Gold, and in 1993 they held the first white coat ceremony in the United States at the Columbia University College of Physicians and Surgeons in New York City. And this actually caught on like wildfire, and over the next 3 or 4 years, virtually every medical school in the United States started to do this ceremony. So ours was in August of 1997. So as I said, this is our 15th year. And, you know, it's sort of at the end of orientation week. So we wanted to end the week with something that would be fairly memorable to everybody. And so, again, we thank you for coming. This is your first week of medical school, students. And as I said, we hope it's something you will remember for a long time. And we don't want you to just think about getting your IDs and getting lockers and places to park and all of the housekeeping things that we have to go through. I remember my first day in medical school was in 1968. We didn't have orientation. We didn't have lockers. They just said park where you can find a place to park. And it was, you know, just we showed up the first lecture. So I think this is a lot better. It kind of eases you into things and gives you a little bit of an orientation of, you know, what you're going to go through over the next 4 years. And so today you are going to put on a short white coat as a medical student. And 4 years from now, you will put on a long white coat at graduation, where you become a physician, and you will wear the coat of resident and faculty physicians. So this is kind of a bookend kind of event. We started with a ceremony and we ended with a big ceremony. And then you will become a doctor of medicine in May of 2015. And so most of you will get to know me fairly well over the next 4 years. I'm going to personally try very hard to meet on a very regular basis with all of the students rather than just town hall meetings and tutoring a PBL lab now and again. One of the things that you're going to find out very quickly, as I found out on my first day of medical school, I thought the first day of medical school I was a month behind. We got so many assignments on the first day that I didn't think we were ever going to get caught up. And I thought to myself, these people are crazy. Nobody can do this. You just humanly can't absorb this amount of information and remember it long term. But your mind shifts into a different gear than you've been used to. I guarantee you that. You start to study differently than you've studied in the past, because the way you study now is you have to remember a lot of this stuff for the long haul. And so once you get to graduation day, after all of this hard work, and few tears are going to be shed, I'm sure. There'll be some happy times in there. But at the end of this, you are going to be honored with a Doctor of Medicine degree, and it will be well earned, and no one will dispute the fact that you have earned it. So, again, welcome. Happy to see everybody here, and I hope you will enjoy this ceremony as much as everybody on the stage does. So now I'm going to turn the program over to Dr. Linda Headrick, who is our Senior Associate Dean for Education, and she's going to serve as our MC for the rest of the event. Dr. Headrick leads our medical student education program and continues her academic work on applying continuous improvement principles as well as innovations in medical education and healthcare delivery. Dr. Headrick, would you please come forward?
Good afternoon. It's really a privilege to be here and to be with you this afternoon. I want to thank the people up here on the platform with me, medical school leaders and members of the faculty who are here to help us all celebrate this wonderful event. You'll, in a few minutes, have a chance to meet Dr. Rachel Brown, our Associate Dean for Student Programs, Dr. Mark Laney, who is the CEO of Heartland Health System, our speaker today, and student Dr. Michael Bauer, who's the medical student speaker today. I particularly want to recognize 3 second-year medical students who've done a ton of work to make this week a successful one for the first-year medical students. So if you guys would stand up. Student Dr. J.P. Prouty, Maria Dusnap-Dreisinger, and Jessica Sanford. Let's give them a round of applause for all their work. So it's a real privilege to welcome you here, and I consider it a personal privilege to be a member of the faculty who will soon be your teachers. But I want to say that the people who will teach you the most about illness, about health, and about being the very best physician you can be are your patients, the people who honor you by including you as part of their care. You'll also learn a lot from your partners in the other health professions, the other members of the healthcare team whom you'll work with to together provide great care. I once had the privilege of serving as the primary care physician member of a team working with patients with eating disorders. This was a group that was led by psychologists with expertise in these diseases. Also members of the team were a dietitian and a nurse practitioner. Together, we cared for a very challenging group of patients with anorexia nervosa, bulimia, and related illnesses, all of which prevented them from eating normally and staying healthy. The patients who were most at risk visited us weekly. The dietitian checked weights every week and provided nutritional support. The nurse practitioner checked with every patient every week to make sure there weren't any medical issues. And I personally saw everyone at least once a month. But the most important work for most of these patients occurred with the leader of our team, the psychologist, who worked to help each patient understand and figure out the issues that were at the core of the disease. On Fridays, the team would meet for lunch and talk about any patient who needed our collective attention, and I was continuously astonished at how much I learned about my patients, who I knew pretty well. I was seeing these people once a month. How much I learned from my patients from these other team members. A patient I'll call Ms. Hughes came in one day for an urgent appointment with a complaint of an injury to her foot. She said that she'd opened up the freezer door, kind of above the refrigerator, and a heavy object came down and crushed her great toe. And so she came in and we checked things out. Fortunately, there was no fracture. All she had was a pretty banged up toenail, which then had to grow out. But later, the psychologist on the team told me that Ms. Hughes had talked to her about the incident and had admitted that she'd injured her toe on purpose. Something had fallen out of that freezer that day, but it missed her toe, missed her foot. But when she saw that, she realized, if I had an injury, then that would be a reason for me to call the team and get seen and get a little bit more support that day. So unfortunately, her injured toe was sort of an accident on purpose. Man, I didn't get that at all. I still find myself kind of wrinkling up my face when I think about that. But the psychologist helped me first learn the truth about the situation. Second, use it to understand Ms. Hughes and her illness better than I had before. And third, react appropriately, building my relationship with her and reaching out to the needs that underlay those actions. Patient-centered care means learning about where people are and meeting them there. It means learning about who people are and honoring that, even if they're completely different than anything I could imagine being. It often takes an interprofessional team sharing their insights and expertise to achieve that. A patient-centered approach helps us create relationships with our patients that are fundamental to great care and a core part of the joy of medicine. So that's why we've identified patient-centered care as an important focus of your medical education. I'd like you to take out your programs, everybody, and turn to the middle. If you open it up to the middle, on the right-hand side, you'll see the foundation values for medical education. And on purpose, the very first one is the health of our patients is our first priority. The highest quality health care is the environment for the highest quality education for future physicians. Now I want you to turn the page. You'll see there a list labeled MU 2020 Key Characteristics of Our Graduates. These are the characteristics we believe will help you, the class of 2015, be successful physicians in practice, meeting your patients' needs in the year 2020. That includes, as you see at the top, able to deliver effective patient-centered care that respects individual perspectives, beliefs, values, and cultures, shares timely, complete, accurate, and understandable information to inform health choices, engages each person as he or she prefers, understanding that care choices belong to that individual, and partners in decision-making and the delivery of care. You will be learning how to discover what makes each patient unique, how to understand their needs, and how to build partnerships to help them all get the care that they need and deserve. We've invited a fourth-year medical student, Michael Bauer, to say a word about what this means from a medical student point of view. Michael's from Springfield, Missouri. He got his undergraduate degree in biology at Benedictine College in Atchison, Kansas. Michael, thank you for agreeing to share a few thoughts with the class of 2015.
Thank you, Dr. Headrick. To the class of 2015, parents, relatives, and friends, I would like to welcome you to the University of Missouri. My name is Michael Bauer, and I'm a fourth-year medical student here at the university. It was only 3 very short years ago when I was sitting in your seats feeling the same thing I'm sure many of you are feeling right now. Feelings of nervousness, but yet excitement, and maybe even a feeling of, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into? Those feelings will soon subside as you immerse yourselves into your studies in preparation for becoming outstanding physicians, as I'm sure you all will be. In medical school, just as in all aspects of life, there will be ups and downs. There will be days when you'll want to throw your hands up in defeat. All I can say is, you will persevere, you will become physicians, and that should be a very encouraging thought. I was asked to speak to you all today about what I consider to be one of the most important aspects of being a good physician, which is delivering effective patient-centered care. It can be very easy to overlook the meaning of these words. Taken on the surface, patient-centered care can simply mean medically managing a patient in order to cure their disease or illness. I'm here to tell you that patient-centered care means so much more. Yes, it is important to medically manage the patient as well as one can. However, there are many aspects to high-quality patient-centered care. It is critical that the management of a patient does not go against a patient's wishes or beliefs, whether that be religious, cultural, or other. It is also crucial to give patients and their families all available information so they can make an informed decision. Another important aspect of patient-centered care is to effectively utilize your colleagues. There will be times when another physician will know more than you about a particular topic. It is always in the best interest of the patient to know when to ask for help or advice, and a good physician will know when he or she may not be the expert on a particular subject. Lastly, but certainly no less important, it is crucial to be available to help with patients as well as their families with their emotional needs. In many instances, patients will depend on you for emotional support because you may know them better than their closest friends. I would now like to briefly share the story of a man, I'll call him Mr. Smith as an alias, and his family, whom I'll never forget. I met Mr. Smith on my very first clinical rotation as a third-year medical student. I was at a family practice clinic in Springfield, Missouri, and my attending physician had been asked to see him for medical reasons at his house. I went with my attending to Mr. Smith's house and was really touched by his story. So I returned there a week or so later to sit and talk with him and his family. He was an elderly man who was bedridden due to several chronic medical conditions, as was his wife. He was being cared for by his 2 daughters, who rarely left his side. Mr. Smith was a World War II veteran who truly understood the importance of family. He viewed himself as a true man, and being as such, it was his responsibility to care for his wife and children. It was Mr. Smith's strength and the courage of his daughters which really moved me. He was completely dependent upon his daughters for care, which was particularly difficult for him to grasp. Mr. Smith felt guilt about not being able to care for his wife and believed he was a burden to his daughters. His 2 daughters had completely put their own lives on hold in order to take care of their ailing parents. I spent a great deal of time talking with both Mr. Smith and his daughters about how they were handling this situation and the impact it had on their lives. Upon leaving, Mr. Smith gave me a big smile and thanked me for simply taking the time to listen to his story. His daughters were both in tears as I left. They gave me big hugs and said they hoped all future physicians would spend time getting to know their patients and families as I had done that day. My rotation later ended, and I found myself calling upon Mr. Smith and his family once again for the Legacy Teachers Program. The Legacy Teachers Program is designed to honor those patients who have become lifelong teachers to us medical students through our experiences with them. As a part of the program, we get to invite those patients which had become teachers to us to a luncheon here at Mizzou. I contacted his daughters to invite Mr. Smith to be a part of this program, only to find out that he and his wife had both passed. Their love for each other was so strong, one could not live without the other. They had passed less than 12 hours apart. His daughters were both gracious enough to come to the luncheon in place of their parents. It was an emotional time for both of them as they listened to how their father, even though he was bedridden and in the last few months of his life, had had such a strong impact on a medical student. They again thanked me for simply listening and talking to their father. They said Mr. Smith never forgot the day I came over and would frequently tell them how thankful he was to meet a young medical student who had brightened his day. I believe my story of Mr. Smith and his family is a story of success. I learned a great deal about patient-centered care and what it truly means. By discussing with Mr. Smith and his family the nature of his diseases and his prognosis, we, as the medical team, with the support of his family, were able to determine the best care for Mr. Smith in his last months. We could have kept him alive for years, perhaps, but the means which would have been required to do so were against his wishes and against the wishes of his daughters. We informed Mr. Smith of all treatment options, engaged him and his family in the decision-making process, worked together with him and his family as a team in the delivery of his care, respected Mr. Smith's wishes, and were there for him and his family emotionally. These 5 aspects are the cornerstones of delivering high-quality, patient-centered care. In conclusion, I'd like to offer a little advice and some words of encouragement to the class of 2015. First of all, every patient will unknowingly become a teacher to you. You will learn both about their disease processes, along with proper management of these diseases, and you will learn how to collaborate with families and other members of the medical team to provide the best quality of care. My last piece of advice to all you future physicians: always remember to treat patients and their loved ones with respect and compassion, and never lose sight of what is truly important in the care of another individual. Each individual is somebody's mother, father, brother or sister, or even friend, and that person deserves the very best from you. I will never forget what my attending in Springfield told me the first day of my rotation. He said, "It is a privilege to see patients. They offer you the deepest and most sensitive aspects of their lives. All patients are to be treated with the utmost respect as if they were part of your own family. Good luck to you all. Never lose sight of what is truly important, and welcome to the University of Missouri." Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. The faculty here at the School of Medicine will do our best to help you become the very best physician you can be. Possessing the abilities listed here, able to connect with patients and help them lead long, healthy lives. Your end of the deal is to work hard, which I know you know how to do, and also to learn from the Ms. Hugheses, the Mr. Smiths, and the other patients that you encounter. Work and learn from the other members of the healthcare team. They will teach you some of the most important lessons you'll have as a physician. So once again, congratulations and welcome to the entering class of 2015. It's now my pleasure to introduce Suzanne Potler, who is the mother of Christy Kroll, who's one of our third-year medical students. Ms. Potler is here to tell you about a wonderful organization called FAMS, Families Assisting Medical Students. It's another kind of caring that goes on in our medical school. FAMS does quite a lot for our students. They've already helped out during orientation, welcoming the class of 2015. They're most famous for these amazing breakfasts that they provide during exam week. So thank you so much for everything you do, and please join me in welcoming Ms. Potler.
I forgot, and I wore my mom's white coat, right? I blend right in. Okay, I'm here to talk to you a little bit about FAMS. It stands for Families Assisting Medical Students. And throughout the 4 years of the medical student's education, FAMS provides funding for various programs. This week they've already enjoyed the breakfast and then the picnic last night. We had a really good turnout at the picnic. It was beastly hot, but still I think students enjoyed a time to visit with each other and eat some delicious food. The biggest area that FAMS provides is during exam weeks. The medical students' first and second years, they have 4 exam weeks a year. And during those exam weeks, volunteer family members and friends, usually parents, spouses, and any other relatives or friends, provide food during 3 days of the exam weeks. These are the most intense days for the students as they're taking exams there in their PBL lab areas or in another place in the medical school. And that's where we really need a lot of volunteers to support our students. And each class has volunteers who provide the food for these exam weeks. They get reimbursed $500 to $600 in exam week. And then you wonder, well, where's that money coming from? Well, that's from donations. So we're asking and encouraging people, family members, to join FAMS. And I have brochures on a table out in the hall. And you can join FAMS. You can join for the $50 it states. If you want to donate less, that's fine. If you want to donate more, you can designate it to go specifically to your students, your M1 students. We will be needing, or your students will be needing a lot of volunteers too to make things go smoothly with FAMS. So hopefully some of you are interested in that. It's kind of like a PTA, PTO for medical students. And I know I was tickled to have that opportunity, and I'm sure a lot of you are too, to get to be more involved with the medical students' lives. We will have a brief meeting on Family Day at 8:30 in the morning. One of the information sheet you've received says 9:30, it's 8:30, so that you don't miss any of the sessions. All right, and then I think we have JP is going to tell a little bit about what FAMS has meant to him.
Thank you, Suzanne. From a medical student's point of view, FAMS pretty much saves our lives during test week. They ward off starvation, malnutrition, whatever you want to call it. But during test week, you find very little time to make food, run to the supermarket, even to eat is time you feel like you should be spending studying. So the fact that they provide food for us during test week is a big help, and it helps us succeed during test week. So we are truly grateful to FAMS, and we need to stress again that it needs to continue and will not continue unless we have an influx of volunteers of the parents of the M1 class. So get involved, help your students, and help them during test week. Thanks a lot.
So thanks to Christine Potler and JP. I'm Rachel Brown. The students have already met me. I'm the Associate Dean for Student Programs and Professional Development for the School of Medicine. I spend a lot of my time working with students who are experiencing the stresses of medical school, and I'm very aware of how important it is for our students to have support from family and friends. Our students, for the most part, would not be here if it wasn't for the families standing behind them and alongside them as they've gone through all the stresses that they've needed to in order to get here, and as they go on to be successful here. As a faculty and administration of the School of Medicine, we are really grateful to you all, parents, spouses, partners, significant others, siblings, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, families, friends, even the children of our medical students. We know the sacrifices that you make to support your medical student. We are grateful to you, and we truly thank you, and I know that your medical student wants to thank you as well. You've already heard about FAMS. There are a couple of other opportunities for families to get involved with medical school life here. FAMS has a table outside the auditorium in the atrium, and there's also a table out there from the American Medical Women's Association, and they sell care packages for the students, so that if you buy a care package for your student, then during exam week, the student will get a package that has like snacks and healthy stuff and cards and all of that kind of stuff, and any messages that you choose to send to your student. And then the other thing you've already heard Ms. Potler mention is Family Day. So you should be receiving an invitation to Family Day. This year it's on August the 27th. It's an opportunity on a Saturday, and it's an opportunity for you to come and spend a little bit of time here at the School of Medicine with your medical student, and then we also do some sessions for you to give you some information as families about the kinds of things that your student is going through. And what it's like to be a medical student here, and some information that you might want to have so that you can better go on and support them. Okay, so now it gives me a great pleasure to introduce the keynote speaker for today's white coat ceremony. Our speaker today is Mark Laney, Dr. Mark Laney, MD. He is the President and Chief Executive Officer of Heartland Health in St. Joseph, Missouri. Heartland Health is a leader in quality in healthcare. In 2009, it was one of the winners of the Malcolm Baldrige Quality Award, given by the President of the United States to those organizations, not only healthcare organizations, but those organizations who are leaders in quality improvement and quality principles in the work that they do. Heartland Health is also one of our most popular third and fourth year clinical sites for our students. So some of you as sitting here as first years may have the opportunity to spend some time at Heartland Health during your careers here as medical students. Mark Laney joined Heartland Health in 2009 as the President and Chief Executive Officer. Prior to Heartland, Dr. Laney served for 20 years at Cook Children's Healthcare System, and for 8 of those years as the President of Cook Children's Physician Network. Dr. Laney earned a Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of North Texas in Denton, Texas, received a Doctor of Medicine from the University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston, Texas, and completed a Pediatric Neurology Fellowship at Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. In the year 2000, he received a Master's of Science in Medical Management at the University of Texas at Dallas. Dr. Laney is the president of the Mayo Clinic Alumni Association and is one of the 30 best physician leaders of hospital and health systems, according to Becker's Hospital Review. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Dr. Mark Laney.
Everybody was arriving earlier. One of your medical school friends, who obviously had reviewed my CV, came up to me and said, "So why did they choose you to talk to us?" And the answer that I gave, and I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know, but hopefully we'll make the best of it. Now, there's two parts to today, okay? One part is that this is a joyous occasion. You've worked really hard. Your parents and your family are here. You're getting ready to start one of the most amazing journeys of your whole life. So part of this whole thing should be fun. Okay? The second part is there's a solemn part, there's a thoughtful part to entering this journey. And so the first part of my talk is going to be fun and interesting, and the second part of my talk is going to be thoughtful. Now, when they asked me to give a keynote address, but I decided I'm not going to give a keynote address. Sorry, guys. That's okay. I'm going to give you your first medical school lecture. I'm going to teach you about the Socratic Method, and we are going to have a pop test. But you're going to get to answer the question as a class, okay? So you really need to pay attention, okay? And it was so funny, I got deja vu when I stood up here because I had a class of 202 people, and I always sat smack dab in the middle on the last row every lecture I took. I was in a medical fraternity, and it was just like Animal House, except wilder. And all my medical fraternity friends would flank me, and they would promptly go to sleep during the lectures, and I'd take the notes, and at the end of the lecture, they'd wake up and go, "Hey, Mark, can I borrow your notes?" So that was me during medical school. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to tell you about my first patient, Mr. Zebediah Phoenix, F-E-N-I-X, and that is his real name. Mr. Phoenix was in the John Seeley Hospital, University of Texas Medical Branch, 1982, 4th floor, internal medicine, team blue, attending Dr. Jack Jabba Alperin. Can anybody tell me why his nickname was Jabba? He looked just like Jabba the Hutt. And I'm sure you guys are so professional and enthusiastic that you will never have nicknames for your attendings. But anyway, it was Jabba Jack Alperin, and Mr. Phoenix was admitted. And back in those days, if you had a medical problem, we didn't know what it was. We just put you in the hospital, right? Remember those good old days? And we just kind of work you up, and it didn't 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, 10 days didn't make a difference. Well, it was a different time. So Mr. Phoenix was admitted to John Seeley Hospital. Mr. Phoenix was probably late 70s, early 80s. He lived in a closet in a hardware store in Jasper, Texas. The reason he lived in a closet is because for the privilege of having a heating plate and a bed, he swept the floors of the hardware store. And he was admitted to John Seeley Hospital with the dwindles. You guys know about the dwindles, right? Right? Since Cecil's textbook of medicine, everybody's going, well, yeah, we know about what the dwindles. Do you guys know what the dwindles are? Does anybody know what the dwindles are? Okay. The dwindles are when you're elderly and you kind of just start getting frail and you kind of start losing weight and you kind of get a little unsteady and you just kind of, life is kind of slipping away from you. So Mr. Phoenix had the dwindles and I was assigned to take care of Mr. Phoenix. So this was my chance, after lots and lots of practices, to actually go in and take a history and physical with Mr. Phoenix. Well, the first thing that we had to do is we had to get Mr. Phoenix cleaned up, because when you live in a closet, you can't take care of yourself very good. So the first order was to give Mr. Phoenix a bath. And then he was put in a lovely pair of white starched scrubs, which is what gentlemen wore in the hospital at that time at John Seeley. And so I walked into Mr. Phoenix's room, and there he was. He probably weighed, 90 pounds. And he was an African-American gentleman, and he had beautiful, dark, ebony skin. And he had hair that was white as snow. And literally, the most wonderful thing about Mr. Phoenix is that his eyes twinkled. And so we started talking about why he was there and what his family was like and his work and his life. And interestingly, every time I would say something to Mr. Phoenix, he would answer me by saying, "Yes, boss man. Yes, boss man." And I said, finally, I had to stop the interview. At first, I didn't really understand what was going on. Okay. I had to stop the interview, and I said, "Mr. Phoenix, please, please, don't call me boss man. Mr. Phoenix, I'm here to help you. And Mr. Phoenix, I'm a junior medical student. I'm the lowest life form that exists." And he smiled and he looked at me and he said, "Yes, boss man." So my life is flashing before my eyes, because I know what's about to happen is tomorrow we're going to make rounds. And Jabba Jack and the intern and chief resident and all my friends are going to be on rounds, and I'm worried that I'm going to have the shortest medical career in the history of the University of Texas medical branch if Mr. Phoenix calls me boss man in front of everybody. So anyway, we made rounds the next day, and actually before rounds, we had pre-rounds. So I went in to see Mr. Phoenix before pre-rounds, and I go into the room, and there he is, and it was so strange because he had these white starch sheets pulled up way around his neck. I thought, that's kind of weird. It's cold in here, but not that cold. So anyway, I got to the part where I was going to listen to his chest and said, "Mr. Phoenix," I got my stethoscope out. "Mr. Phoenix, I'm going to listen to your chest." So I pulled up my stethoscope and I gently reached up and I pulled down the sheet, and there was Mr. Phoenix completely dressed in the clothes that he had come in on. And I said, "Mr. Phoenix, are you trying to escape from the hospital?" And he got this little smile on his face. Like, "Yeah." I was like, "Mr. Phoenix, now, we got to take care of you. We got to find out why you got the dwindles. So, I don't want you escaping from the hospital. We'll take good care of you. So let's get you back in your scrubs and let's not have any more of this. In fact, we're going to put your clothes up, and so you don't get tempted to try this again." So anyway, we went and made rounds that day, and Jabba Jack, was asking me wonderful questions about the case, and we decided what the action plan, what was going to be, where we were going to order tests and lab and get Mr. Phoenix on the road to recovery. And so Jabba Jack says to Mr. Phoenix, "Okay, Mr. Phoenix, this is the plan. What do you think about that?" And Mr. Phoenix promptly looks over at me and says, "I'll do whatever he says." So Dr. Alperin says, "Well, young Dr. Laney, we're so glad that you're on the case." And, I was like, "Oh, this is not good." But I didn't get called boss man, so that was good. So anyway, we ordered the test, and away we went. And then the next day, I came to make rounds on Mr. Phoenix. And I walked into his room, and I had the shock of my life. The bed is empty. The covers are all tussled. So I go to the bathroom and knock on the door and open the door, and there's no Mr. Phoenix. So I run out to the nurse's station and said, "Have you seen Mr. Phoenix?" They said, "No, we haven't seen Mr. Phoenix." So I ran down the hall to the main hallway of the John Seeley Hospital, which was about over 100 yards. I mean, it went on forever. It went on forever. And way down that hall, there he is. Mr. Phoenix is making a run for it. Okay? Now, the medical students, we used to call Galveston Galvatraz. Because it's on an island. It's probably, I guess, maybe the only medical school that's on an island. And we were always talking about escaping from Galvatraz and going over the wall. Okay? So Mr. Phoenix was going over the wall. That would be the phrase that we were using. So this is Mr. Phoenix. And that's how fast he's going. And he's putting everything into it. And so here I am. I guess it was my third day on medicine. This is my first chance to make a clinical decision of what to do. This is my first chance to make a life and death decision. Right there. I had to make that decision. And so, my life is flashing before my eyes. So, okay, this is where we have the pop quiz. What would you do? What would you do? Young doctors. Who would go get him? Who would go get him? Who would just let him run? Who would just not do anything? Okay? Well, this is one of those clinical things in life where there's not an exactly right or wrong answer. So I'll tell you what I did. I yelled at him. "Run, Mr. Phoenix! Run like the wind!" Mr. Phoenix, he's like, "Yeah, give me one of these." And we had taken him out of his white scrubs and put him in one of those gowns. So his bottom is kind of, fleck. That's where the term hauling ass came in. So he is hauling. And so there's all this noise. And then what happens is all of my medical school friends ran up because they hear the news and they come up. They ran down the hall. "Hey, Mark, what's going on?" Mr. Phoenix, he's making a run for the wall. And they were like, "Really?" We all kind of looked at each other. And then what happened? They all yelled with me, "Run, Mr. Phoenix! Run like the wind!" So he's going. And finally, we made enough noise to where the nurses came down there and they sent the orderlies out and they got Mr. Phoenix and they caught him and they brought him back to his room. And then we had to go make rounds. So Dr. Alperin says, "So, young Dr. Laney, or hopeful young Dr. Laney, I heard we had a little incident on the floor this morning." I said, Yeah, I heard you were yelling for Mr. Phoenix to make it over the wall." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, do you want to tell me about that?" I said, "Well, to be honest, Dr. Alperin, he just wants to go home." He said, "What?" I said, "He doesn't want any tests. He doesn't want any more blood work. He doesn't want to be in the hospital. He just wants to go home." And Dr. Alperin said, "You're right." And so we spent the next 2 days, and we found a lovely nursing home for Mr. Phoenix to go to, where he had a warm bed, and he had warm food, and he was safe. And for months after that, the nurses at that nursing home would write me notes and tell me how Mr. Phoenix was doing. And I will always, in my heart, remember what he taught me about medicine. He taught me that if you're a great physician, you don't care about how much money or what insurance somebody has. If you're a great physician, you don't care if somebody doesn't smell very good. If you're a great physician, it's not about doing just what you want, but it's finding out what your patients want. And you guys have talked about your patients as your teachers. A better lesson could not have been learned from one man. And that's why I told you his name. Because who would think that 30 years later, his name would live on as a reason to be a great physician? Cool story, huh? I pray that each and every one of you have a Mr. Phoenix in your life. So let's talk about this thing. You know why it's white? It's white because in the 1800s, there were so many quack physicians, and there were so many diploma mills, and there was so much stuff going on that doctors decided to wear white because it was an image thing. It was to promote the image of more science in medicine. That's how it got started. I don't really think that that's the main reason today. Most people don't question our science and our technology. Let me tell you what it means to me. It is about trust. There is no other job where you get to put your hands on or your hands in someone else. There is no other job where people reveal to you the innermost secrets of their life. Dr. Will Mayo said this, and this is the most important lesson to learn for your entire medical school career. It comes down to one sentence. The needs of the patient come first. So if you don't know what to do, ask yourself that question. It will lead you to the right answer. That is the most important thing to learn. The needs of the patient come first. See, you've entered into a role that's a profession. It's not just a job. There are tens of thousands of people that have gone before you that have sacrificed to serve others. And that's really what this is all about, serving others. And the most wonderful thing is that feeling of service is like no other reward that you can get in your life. And so this white coat, it's about a sacred promise and trust that you will put the needs of the patient first no matter what. And my wish for you, young doctors, is that you would have a fraction of the joy that I have had in my career. And when I look in your faces, I just see the energy and the positivity of wonderful things for the future. All right. Now that's the end of my formal talk, but the dean has asked me to give you one other lesson. Okay? And the title of that lesson, this is a freebie, it's an add-on, is called Run to the Roar. And the story goes like this. And this is a great life lesson, and it's also a great lesson for medicine. When lions hunt, this is the way lions hunt. The male lions go over here. The female lions go over here. And the male lions go, rawr. And what normally happens is that the antelope or zebras or whatever get scared because they see the male lions and they see the roar and they turn and they run the other way, running right into the female lions who do the kill. Okay? So what intuitively seems like the safest thing to do, to run away, is actually what puts you in the most danger. And the same holds true for life, and the same holds true for medicine, and the same holds true with working with difficult colleagues or difficult families. Our natural instinct is to run away. But the best thing that you can do is to run to the roar. The best thing that you can do is run to the problem. The best thing that you can do is embrace the problem. The best thing that you can do is embrace the difficult patient or family. The best thing to do is deal with your difficult partner, not ignore it. And so sometimes in life, the lessons and the things that we do are counterintuitive. But anyway, I'd just like to close by saying it is a tremendous, tremendous honor for me to be asked to come and give this talk. I know it's usually given by faculty members, and when I was given the opportunity, I jumped at it because it is so special, and to be a part of this was really important to me. And so hopefully I said something that was worthy of being here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Laney. That was terrific. Well, you're right. This is a solemn, important, but also joyous occasion. And now comes the time when we get to do a little cheering, if you like. One by one, each of the members of the class of 2015 will come to the stage after Dr. Brown reads their name. They'll receive the white coat, come over and get to shake hands with the dean, get a picture taken. And as all that's happening, as those of you who are here as friends, family members, if you'd like to do something to make it a little bit memorable, as long as you think it's appropriate, that would be fine. So not a time to be quiet, a time to cheer. You're also welcome to take pictures if you like, but please be aware that we have a professional photographer who will be taking pictures along the way. So if you guys, I think there'll be plenty of space for everybody. So if you all are ready, are you ready? All right. It's my pleasure to recognize and welcome the class of 2015.
So I have the enormous privilege and honor of reading the names of the class of 2015, who I see already approaching the podium. So, Matthew Gabriel Bartley. Christopher Thomas Bell. Lucas Richard Blunt. Blake Michael Bodendorfer. Zachary Calvin Bowles. Amy Lorraine Boxer. Annabelle Lee Bradford. Brandon Paul Brewer. Timothy David Buff. Chadwick Paul Bile. Jack Griffin Campbell. Grace Elizabeth Carlson. Brett Wheeler Alexander Chamberlain. Courtney Rue Champagne. Sherry Angela Chang. Julie Michelle Chase. Emily Farrig Cole. Craigen Dale Currance. Bert Drury. Eldin Juthera. Vin Q Du Yong. Jared Thomas Dye. Erin Elizabeth Engelhardt. Lauren Michelle Eversmeyer. Crystal Rose Foster. Joseph Scott Fry. Samuel John Galloway. Cameron Spencer Gilbert. Jordan Heath Gibson. Ashton Joe Glover. Fraser Alexander Lockhart Grant. Martin Gregory. Paul Joseph Hampel. Robert Allen Harper. David Michael Hayes. Elizabeth Ann Heeb. Alex Henderson. Jesse Philip Herner. Lucas Graham Hawkman. Natalie Joy Hughes. Majdi Musaddiq Islam. Samuel Thomas Jerzak. Gabriella Monique Johnson. Megan Sarah Johnson. Jacob Creed Jones. Robbie Jones. Sarah Nicole Kupala. Alec Lee Kelm. Jennifer Mi-Yun Kim. Joanna Marie Kimball. Kelsey Reese Klostermeyer. Elsa Jane Crackey. David Michael Kraus. Ontario Dupree Lacey. Nicholas Charles Lorchis. Viet Thien Lee. Calvin Darnell Lewis. Troy Joseph Lathan. Kayleen Nicole Long. Kathleen Ann Long. Marsha Marie Maines. Neela Manandhar. Ravinda Manku. Nabiha Sohail Makbul. Jeffrey Michael Marks. Lindsay Michelle McDaniel. Aaron Michael McLaughlin. Lynn Elise Mercer. Catherine Lynette Moore. Kristen Lee Morrison. Ryan Mitchell Neff. Hannah Marie Navoa. Austin Ostermeyer. Taylor Helen Pancoast. Deepika Deepak Parmar. Michelle Christine Pickens. Garrett Michael Powell. Nandan Prasad. Caitlin Prunty. Angela Natalie Pullen. Desiree Lynn Regal. Mark Allen Reed. Kyle William Riggs. Wilson Wade Smelser. Adam James Smith. Michelle Courtney Spiegel. Lauren Ashley Stevenson. Christopher David Stryler. Stacey Marie Sudholt. David Clayton Tapscott. Ezekiel Parker Tarrant. Meryl Jane Terry. Lauren Q. Tran. Erin Elizabeth Twellman. Rachel Ann Waller. Natalia Wallman. Abby Joan Warren. Bethany Mary Nell Wicker. Sarah Ann Williams. Todd Patrick Williams. Marguerite Finan Winkler. And Louis Zane. Okay. Don't you all look nice? Okay. Dr. Churchill, please come to the microphone to administer the oath.
We're going to talk a little bit before we do the oath. I'm going to see if I can get this thing to... Is that working? Can you hear? Okay. You know, the mission statement of the School of Medicine is to improve the health of all people, especially Missourians, through exemplary education, research, and patient-centered care. Now, there's a theme here. You heard it with Michael Bauer. You've heard it with Dr. Headrick. You've certainly heard it, Dr. Mark Laney. Patient-centered care. It's not just a slogan. You know, for a long time, patient care, given by some, was more provider-centered care. People would cancel clinics to have a tea time, no real concern about, what the patient is going through to get to a clinic appointment. And so we are putting an end to everything except patient-centered care. And Dr. Laney talked about, when you are having a hard time deciding what the right thing to do is, just think of the needs of the patient. So you just heard our medical schools, your medical school's mission statement. And I expect all of you to memorize our vision statement, our mission statement, and our other things that aren't too long. This will be easy compared to memorizing the 12 cranial nerves, believe me. And so what we're going to do here in a little bit is you're going to take an oath. And this oath is really the mission statement of the profession. Okay, you are about ready to cite the mission statement of what it is to be a physician. Now, many people, when they think of an oath, they think of the Hippocratic Oath. And when I went to medical school, I graduated in 72, we actually took the Hippocratic Oath. There are other oaths that are just as solemn, and the Hippocratic Oath uses some old-fashioned language. I mean, it goes back to the time of Hippocrates, apparently. And so some of these oaths have been updated. And the oath that we administer here at the University of Missouri, and this is an oath that is picked each year by the graduating seniors, and it's the Oath of Geneva. This oath was put together by the World Health Organization after World War II. And there have been 5 revisions to that oath since then, and the latest revision was done in 1966. And so, but the values addressed in this and other oaths are the values that you've heard Dr. Laney, Michael Bauer, Linda Headrick talk about. And these are not something you turn on when we're in here again in 5 years and you graduate. This is something we hope you already have. It's something you're going to have to start paying attention to today, and it is something that you are going to have to espouse to and actually run your life with your profession according to the values and the things stated in this oath that you are about to take. So you're pretty much going to take the oath. It's been modified a little bit for first-year medical students, but not much. It's not been altered too much. And what I'm going to do before we take the oath, I want you to look in the program. The oath is printed there. I want you to look in the program, and I am going to, there are several things that you are going to recite after I read them. I want to spend a couple of minutes talking about a couple of items in the oath. I was going to start out with the one I like a lot. I will give to my teachers the respect and the gratitude that is their due. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to skip down to my colleagues will be my sisters and my brothers. Now let's talk about that for a second. The classmates that you have are going to come from various backgrounds in terms of ethnicity, in terms of socioeconomic status, in terms of religion, and so it's a mixed group of students. The population that you are going to take care of is a mixed group of people. If you take a look at the population of the United States right now, and look at between the ages of 1 minute and 18 years of age, Caucasians are in the minority right now, today. By 2040, 2050, Caucasians will be in the minority. And so what we need to do is we have to respect each other. And it has to start with you and in your class. If you cannot respect each other and treat each other as your brothers and sisters, how in the world are you going to treat your patients the way they want to be treated. So we have to start out with ourselves. And I would expand this beyond your classmates. You know, when I was trained, and Dr. Laney was trained, although I'm about 10 years out before him, medicine was not a team sport. Medicine was a profession of rugged individualism. You know, you were expected to know everything about everything yourself, because you alone held the fate of a patient in your hands. There is just way too much to know for any one person to have everything and know everything at the tip of their tongue every minute of every day. So one of the things that is emerging in healthcare today is that we are thinking more of teams. You will have some opportunities to train with nurses and with health profession students. And so they are part of the team. So they are also your colleagues. They will also be your brothers and sisters. And it pays you to be particularly nice to some of these people, particularly when you're a student and when you're especially a first-year resident. I look back on my days as a straight medicine intern at Indiana University. Nurses saved me more times than I can remember, because they, in fact, at that point in time, knew a whole lot more about what I was doing than I knew. And so it is really a collaborative effort. And the best health care, the cheapest health care, actually comes from a team effort. We have to all work together. And it really has to start with you and your classmates, but every healthcare provider, and I'm not just now talking about nurses, I'm talking about everybody who works in the hospital and in the medical school. Because every single person here, even the janitor, has the opportunity to come in contact with a patient or a family member of the patient. And so for that interaction, they are a healthcare provider. So I want you to think about that. I don't want to hear any stories about people in the class not getting along, okay? Because you'll be making an appearance in my office to find out what the problem is. We're all going to get along with everybody. We're going to treat everybody with respect. I'm going to get to the patients in a second. Whatever the holiday season is in your background, if you're a Christian, it's Christmas. That's major holiday. You know how nice everybody, I'm sure it's the same in every religion.